Hello again. Somebody was kind enough to forward me a handbook produced by London City Hall's regeneration team and the sinister sounding Mayor's Design Advocates Diversity Sounding Board. It is written in the most extraordinary style, which reminds me of a Soviet announcement in the old days of the overfulfilling of the latest 5-year plan for producing tractors. However, in the interest of viewers, I have ploughed through the thing and translated some of it into plain English. I doubt that anybody will be surprised to hear that the whole aim is to introduce race into the topic of architecture and town planning. Let's see what Sadiq Khan says in his wordy introduction, and perhaps more importantly, what he actually means. I'm proud to be mayor of a city as diverse as London. It's what makes London so special. It also underpins our success. Yes, diversity certainly makes London special. In what sense it underpins the success of the city is open to debate. Some of us would say it rather undermines the success of London, but we'll pass over that for the time being. He continues, London is growing, with more people calling this city home than ever before. As a result, the built environment is under huge pressure. Yeah, this simply means that millions of immigrants have flocked to London and that parts of the city now appear on the surface to have more in common with the more crowded areas of Islamabad or Lagos than they do any English city. I'm glad that the Mayor of London has noticed this undesirable state of affairs, even if I do not altogether share his vision for rectifying the problem. We must also ensure that the city's infrastructure, from transport to utilities and public spaces, can accommodate this growth. Or we could try and prevent the unrestrained growth, which is causing developers in outer London to concrete over school playing fields and every other patch of greenery to be found. The built environment can exclude groups and create new inequalities if it is not designed and managed in an inclusive way. I have no idea at all what this means. I think that Sadiq Khan just wants to bring in the idea of racism at this point, and he feels that waffling on about inclusivity and exclusion will ease us into that frame of mind gently. By shaping an environment which gives people more opportunities to mix, we can improve social integration, which will only make our city stronger. Yeah, this is easier to grasp. Khan wants to build slummy housing estates in decent and law-abiding areas so that people do not imagine that they can live pleasant lives just by avoiding buying places in areas like Tottenham or Deptford. It is clear that built environment professionals, and I suppose he means architects, can have a huge impact on Londoners' lives and well-being. As such, I believe the sector should reflect the diversity of London itself. It would be remiss of me to ignore the fact that there is still a long way to go in terms of the diversity of the development community itself, and in particular the architecture profession. Now we're approaching the crux of the matter. Most architects are from white or Asian families. To qualify as an architect requires studying for 5 years for a degree, and it's a pretty gruelling process. White students and those of Indian and Chinese origin are prepared to make the necessary sacrifices in the interests of a future career. Few black teenagers are willing to make that commitment. They could if they had the right A-levels, but the truth is architecture looks a little dull to many people, and so a lot of youngsters avoid it as a career. Mind, there's nothing to stop young black people entering the profession. They simply choose not to do so. Now we come to the Mayor of London's plans to impose, if he can possibly do so, a quota system on firms of architects. He would not dream of saying this openly, of course, but the threat is there nevertheless. London's a huge city, and many of the most profitable contracts for work in designing buildings and then erecting them come from City Hall. They've got lots of money to spend, and a firm of architects in favour with the Mayor's office can do very nicely. The idea of being frozen out of local authority contracts is a chilling one. Khan says, with my design advocates, I've been looking at how to address barriers to equality, diversity and inclusion in the built environment. As a result, we have changed procurement processes through our new Architecture and Urbanism panel. This embeds social value in projects and encourages practices to be diverse. And right there you have it. We have changed our procurement processes, encouraging practices to be diverse. In other words, compliance officers from City Hall will be examining companies of architects with whom London does business and seeing how diverse they are. Any which only have white architects working for them will be penalised by being refused yummy contracts for designing housing estates and shopping centres. Only those with a certain proportion of ethnic minority staff will be used. Hello, racial balancing and quotas. I shall have to do another video about the rest of this awful document because it will affect everybody living in London. I dare say that most of you living there have noticed that the architecture in London is nearly all European. How do you think that makes immigrants feel? Excluded, that's how. As the report notes, most college and university curricula across the UK are Euro or Anglo-centric. There is little teaching of African or Asian architecture offered as part of an architectural education. Surely you all want more African architecture in the high street? Or are you some kind of racist who wants to see only Anglo-centric architecture? Shame on you if so.